What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down, what moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go up 4.07%, 30.96 the low, 32.73 the high. So a new 52 weekend all-time high was hit, and 102 million shares being traded. So a lot of good volume really happening with SoFi. Even though there wasn't any official news from SoFi, it was having kind of FOMO type of vibes. So I think a lot of big money is really gravitating towards SoFi, and you can see that from the secondary market. So big one for today, and a couple big ones: 143 million, 29.3, 26.1, 26.1, 15.3. So a lot of big money was getting into SoFi. Same goes for the dark pool. So big one for today was 38 million, then 8.1, 6.2. So as per usual, definitely big money is kind of focusing and paying attention to SoFi. So with their most recent announcement of cryptocurrency, I think that's kind of unlocking a lot of good future potential. Plus, even though we haven't received any new analyst ratings today, you did see analysts starting to change some of their kind of estimates, because as I've mentioned in the past, some analysts can change their estimates on their key metrics, so earnings per share, revenue, and so forth, without actually giving a new rating. So when it comes down to it, I was looking at the revenue, and so now we're seeing starting in Q1, $1.01 billion in revenue. That was previously in Q2. So things are starting to really heat up. And so yeah, analysts are changing some stuff behind the scenes. So good to see 1 billion almost every quarter. And so for Q4, it is currently estimated to be about 990.93 million. And that's between that 959 and 1.1 billion. So most likely it is fair to assume that SoFi is going to be hitting 1 billion probably in Q4. But nonetheless, when it came down to this morning, we did have some good data. So mortgage applications came in at 0.6, previous was negative 1.9, and then mortgage market index came in at 334 versus 332 the previous. So I think in general, this was good, gave the nice boost higher during the pre-market, even though this did diminish the likelihood of a cut for the upcoming December meeting slightly. Because this was good data. I think this is exactly what the market did truly need. Aside from that though, hot topic was shutdown. Almost every second article or third article that I saw was talking about the shutdown, what that does truly mean for the broader market, what that means for possibly Q4 GDP. And how it could potentially go down like 2% because of that. But nonetheless, vote is this evening, so we could be having a very positive catalyst for Thursday. And this optimism is what kind of pushed the market very high during power hour. So definitely good stuff. Only thing that came out from SoFi was a 144 right over here. Came out 6:17 p.m. It was Chris Lapointe doing a prepaid variable forward contract, 500,000 shares. It looks like the settlement date is roughly around November 12th, 2027. So the couple key points to watch for is 25.38. So I guess one way to see this as is that he sees it going above roughly $50.58 by 2027. So that's kind of maybe an inverse way how to see this. But ultimately, if it is above that 50.58, then he does have to kind of deliver the minimum amount of shares. If it's between that 25.38 and 50.58, he does have to do a certain, I think it's a percentage of that. And then if it's below 25.38, he does have to deliver all 500,000 shares. Reason why he ultimately is doing this is to get just more cash. It's kind of a pre-paid type of sale, and it does allow him to defer his taxes up until 2027. So that's something essentially to keep in mind. But again, indirectly, this is something that Anthony also did, what was it, like a year and a half ago. And it's a good sign that he does believe that it could go higher than that 50.58. So something, again, just to kind of keep in mind. And I guess on a side note, the only other thing that kind of came out was this right here. So potentially looks like there might be a EU deal coming down the pipeline tomorrow. So that's been one thing that we haven't really had, which would be a pretty good catalyst. So if we have this shutdown news, the market should be quite hot tomorrow. So definitely something to keep in mind. But When it comes down to shorts, they did return 592,000 shares today. 9.19% of the free floats being shorted works out to be 108.98 million shares overall being shorted. Cost per row minimum, as per usual, is negative, so negative 0.23%. So that is a annual rate, not a daily rate, and it also does signal that kind of brokers are still paying people to short SoFi. Aside from that, looking at the options, we had 105 million in calls, 20 million in puts, so a lot of money was also getting in to SoFi options, and then 50% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that kind of $32 to $33 range, and then you have a couple outliers for it to be above 35. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 30, and given the momentum behind SoFi, I wouldn't be surprised if market makers increase the number of chains available. So again, that would be a pretty big sentiment booster, because if SoFi gets new chains, higher chains, that does mean market makers feel that it is on the table. So right now we do have a high of, it looks like $47 for some chains. So again, if they kind of increase that to, let's say 50, then that would be seen as very, very bullish. Aside from that, with it closing at 32.21, it is trading between this R2 and this R1. So 31.98 is going to be a strong support. Just kind of watch for that. SoFi is kind of going down a little bit during the after hours. So regardless, for tomorrow, just watch for 31.98 and then 33.80. So I wouldn't be surprised if SoFi does hit another new all-time high tomorrow, just given the massive amount of momentum and just what big money is really focusing on today. Aside from that though, on the actual chart, there's not really anything negative to bring up. Even stochastic RSI, it's neutral because of the recent volatility right down here in the consolidation. So even going into all-time highs, SoFi isn't considered overbought. So crazy stuff. Aside from that, looking at the market position, you don't see that much willing sellers, not that much in articles really coming out associated to SoFi, no new analyst ratings like I said, but regardless of everything, SoFi is really, it seems unstoppable. I don't want to jinx it by saying that, and hopefully I don't jinx it by saying that, but everything is just crazy next level FOMO. So let me know your general thoughts on SoFi. Are you buying at these kind of all-time highs, or are you locking in some profits? What are you generally doing with SoFi? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.